All right. Welcome, everybody, back to episode number 10 of the Off the Rails podcast with Tone and Jems. I'm Tone. That over there is Jems, if you're watching. I just pointed at him. And we have a special guest with us today, which if you download this podcast, you already know who it is, but I'm going to go through the intro anyway because it's very polite to do so. We have a awesome musician who tours nationally, has had songs on Cougar Town, Private Practice, Life Unexpected, and, of course, Grey's Anatomy. Was signed to F-Stop Records, which was a division of Atlantic, and now does independent music and releases his own incredible records. One of my favorite records of 2016, American Wilderness. Mr. Matt Hires, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you, man. I did just miss the part where I was going to say you live in Nashville, but you're from Tampa, so get that out of the way there. Yeah. so I guess to start things, I know from listening to a few other podcasts and just kind of knowing your backstory, you're from Tampa. You lived there your entire life until you moved to Nashville?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was born in Orlando, but moved to Tampa when I was like 2 and moved to Nashville when I was 29. So
Nice. That's a long time to be in one spot. For me, like I was a military brat, so we moved around all the time. So like I think Jems has pretty much lived in the area for so it's a very, very interesting dynamic. It's kind of always what I wanted. I was envious of you guys. Like I was like, wish I had like my friends from like when I was like 2 years old. That'd be so cool. But then it's weird because I ended up marrying my 7th grade girlfriend, which is kind of weird. So
I married. She wasn't my 8th grade girlfriend, but my wife. I've known my wife since 8th grade. So.
Yeah, so it's an interesting dynamic when you know somebody. Of course, me and my wife were military brats, so we moved. So like we got out of touch, and we both were married, and then we both got divorced, and then we found our way back to each other somehow. Yeah. So it's a crazy story. But when you know somebody when they're little, it's like weird to see them as like a full functioning adult, especially when you've made a full functioning adult together. Then you're like, or not a full functioning adult, but like you've made a human with that person. You're like, holy moly, like it's crazy. And now I'm to the point where like our oldest daughters are 12 and 13, and that's when me and my wife met. So now we're like, holy moly, it's like this weird circle. But what spurred the move to Nashville for you? Since you've been in one place for so long.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my wife and she had lived in Tampa her whole life too, and we just kind of wanted to change. We had a bunch of friends who had moved to Nashville around the same time, and actually my good friend Kyle Cox, who's another musician and artist, we tour a lot together, but he had been visiting his sister in DC and flown back and had to get on like a standby flight. That he lived in Orlando and he had to fly into Tampa, and so we picked him up from the airport, and while he waited for his wife to come get him from Orlando, and I had an Olive Garden gift card, so we went to Olive Garden for dinner, got that all you can eat soup, salad, and breadsticks, and he talked us into moving to Nashville because he and his wife were about to move there. So that's kind of hard to have. I having been a person who lived in one place for most of my life, I highly recommend moving somewhere new. It's exciting. It's kind of an adventure. I mean, we've been here like pretty much 6 years now, so it's home. But yeah, there's something exciting about moving somewhere new.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, the only place I lived in Illinois for like a year and a half in college, but yeah, I've only been in Indiana. Me and my wife have talked about wanting to move somewhere, but it's just I have a good job here, so it's tough to do it. But
that was another thing where it kind of worked out. Timing worked out where my wife was able to get like a better job up here. It made sense for me since I play music, and like I said, we had a bunch of other friends that moved here, so it was sort of like perfect storm of good things that brought us to Nashville.
I mean, we're hoping this podcast blows up so we can relocate somewhere.
Yeah. We've talked about it all the time. We're like, man, we get enough money, we're just building a giant warehouse and we're just going to do everything out of there and just live in the middle of nowhere, probably, because you can do what we've been doing this like video thing for a while. But like, I mean, through various podcasts, and we have friends that do podcasts, so like they're all scattered throughout the country. So like, it's kind of a necessity. We're not like hey, let's go take a flight to Wisconsin so we could be on this guy's podcast, like that kind of thing. So or like, you like when touring is available as an option, like being in a city and then having to go do something. So it seems like a fun thing to do, though, is just be at different spots and locations and stuff. But yeah, as moving all the time, it's like I always just wanted the opposite. I was like,
I'm sure that would be difficult. I mean, as far as touring, living in Nashville has been great for me because I mean it's a long drive out of Florida to get to everywhere in the rest of the country. So it's nice being somewhere more centrally located.
Yeah. We actually, ironically enough, our last podcast we just did, Ryan Niemiller, he was located in Indiana. That's where he started, and he gave his sales pitch of why it makes sense to live in the Midwest. He's like, you can just tour everywhere. You can go north, south, east, west. Like so.
Yeah, I can get like to Texas pretty easily. I can get to the southeast, northeast, Midwest. The only stretch is to get out to where you're at in Colorado and stuff. But
yeah.
Even then, like I used to, when I lived in Tampa for a while, my backing band that played with me on tour, they lived in Denver. So I made that Tampa to Denver drive too many times. I would do it in 2 days, and it sucked. It was such a haul.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah.
I drove when I moved here. I drove from Virginia Beach to Colorado with a 5-year-old. And so yeah, it was brutal. Broke it up into 3 days. I stopped in Nashville. Didn't get to see anything going on in Nashville because I had a 5-year-old with me. And then I went to stopped in Joplin, Missouri, and to see a buddy who actually lives in Nashville now. What are you doing, bud?
I want to hang
out. This is the kind of podcast we run, Matt. Sometimes we get visitors. Sometimes it's like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Sometimes people just kind of show up at the door. So I stopped in Joplin, Missouri. Buddy who actually lives in Nashville now, and then straight to Colorado. And Kansas is a boring ass drive.
It is, gosh, Kansas and Eastern Colorado. So
yeah, it's very very boring.
That's what podcasts are for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the reason I found podcasts about like right before I moved out here, which was 2000. It was actually the end of 2012. Actually, about a week from now, it'll be 8 years that I moved out here.
Cool.
It was, thank God I had podcasts, because you can only listen to so much of the same. I'm a music fan who loves. I'll burn a song out. I'll burn a record out.
Yeah.
And so podcasts. Gotta love them. I'm gonna be a bouncer, and I'm gonna eject this little man from this room. But Jems, if you have any questions, go shoot it.
So you've been in Nashville 6 years. You're kind of like folky, I guess. Is that how you describe your music?
Yeah.
Maybe? Do you do any country stuff too, or is that just like Nashville is a place for all music?
No, yeah. I mean, Nashville has definitely become more of a place for all music, I would say. Country and Christian are like the main, all like the huge music coming out of Nashville. It's mostly that stuff, but there's tons of artists from all over. Honestly, like a lot of artists from like New York and Los Angeles and stuff have moved here just because it's so expensive to live in those other places. But
we had Jim Shear on a couple weeks ago. He was an MTV2 VJ and hosted the VH1 Top 20 Countdown. And he was telling us a story, and I'm pretty sure it was Nashville. Tone can probably confirm this, but he said that somebody was telling him a story that walking down the street in Nashville, he saw like New Found Glory, Yellow Card, and Chris Carrabba.
Yeah. Jim Shear. It was he was saying because I'm wearing a Dashboard shirt now. I have a Dashboard shirt on.
Wait, let me see that shirt. I may have owned that at some point.
It's the Shade of Poison Trees one.
Oh no, it looked kind of like one that I had.
I have another. I have like. I'll get into it, but I have like maybe like 40 Dashboard shirts, so I probably have that shirt that you're thinking of. But yeah. So we were talking to Jim Shear, and he was like, he asked me what my favorite band was, and I said Dashboard, and he was like, he's like, Chris Carrabba told me a story recently about how it was in Nashville. Him, Dashboard, New Found Glory, and Yellow Card were some street corner.
Yeah,
and someone from that era was like, he's like someone who would appreciate it, like. Walked by, kind of double took, and was like, "Nah, it can't be them." Like, just kept walking. Like,
yeah, I've actually seen. I I knew like some of the Newfound Glory guys lived here. I've never seen any of them. I've seen Haley Williams from Paramore twice.
Yeah.
And
she's from Franklin though.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I went to a tiny dashboard show once that was like, I forget, you had to do something. I forget how you had to get tickets, but it was like tough to get tickets. It was at midnight at this little venue called The Basement here. And he played acoustic songs for like 45 minutes. It was great.
Awesome. Yeah. He's an interesting guy. Actually, that leads perfectly. I don't know what you guys were talking about while I was gone, but so I have a dashboard tattoo. I have the lyrics, the first verse of a Carter Halsey song. He's my buddy that lives in Nashville. I don't know if you guys run around here. I know he plays all around. Okay. I don't know, but he's done some things. He was actually on. Do you know the band Never Shout Never?
I know of them.
So he did a lot of opening for them. Him and Chris Drew were kindergarten friends in Joplin. So yeah, he lives there, and I actually I know you have tattoos. I know you're pretty tatted up on the one side. Yeah. Do you have any music tattoos or anything like that? I know you're a pretty big music fan. That seems like something that might be.
I actually don't have any music tattoos. I'm trying to think about. So I've gotten all my tattoos. When I moved from Tampa, I had none. Yeah. And they're all on my right arm. But yeah, my first was a mockingbird and like sitting on a magnolia branch because mockingbird is the state bird of both Florida and Tennessee. Oh, so that was kind of like soon after we moved. I got that for my 30th birthday. And the magnolia we had a giant magnolia tree in the front yard of our house in Tampa. Nice. And then they kind of went from there. I have some of my favorite books as a kid were the Chronicles of Narnia books. So I have like a lion and a lamppost and some stuff, but yeah, cool.
I've seen the lamppost because that's like on the backside of your arm.
Yeah. It's like, you can't really, it's like right here.
Yeah. I was going to say, so my children, my two daughters, not the little guy who was just in here causing a ruckus, my daughters who are 12 and 13, their first show was one of your concerts.
Awesome. That's so. You said in the initial message that you sent me asking about that, you said it was when I was opening for Parachute.
Yeah. So it was kind of like the perfect storm. So like I was already a huge fan of yours. My wife loves Parachute, and then like our daughters, like just because we play a ton of music in the house, like they knew both songs, so they were like super pumped up because they were like, we know all these songs. Like,
which city was it that you saw us in?
I saw you in Denver. I think it was at the Ogden Theater. I think it was. Maybe that's wrong, but I don't know. Sounds about right.
I remember that show specifically because I forget what the shirt said, but I was wearing. Does this sound familiar? A homemade shirt saying something about Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Because
on your fantasy team, right?
Yeah, because that week my guitarist and I had made a bet. We were playing each other in fantasy, and anyways, he had Peyton Manning. It was like week one of whatever season that was, the 2013 season, and Peyton Manning threw like 6 touchdown passes, and I just got destroyed. And I had to wear this T-shirt that shamed me.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, because that was, and that would have been exactly right. Yeah, because I was like the first. Because Peyton kind of came, he like might as well have drove with me because he came out basically at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, it was wild, but yeah, that was like our daughter's first show, so like, so they still know all the songs, and they're like, so they're pretty pumped on. Like we still play your music quite a bit in this house. We're one of those families. Like my son's 3, and he talks very well. Like he speaks a lot, and it's mostly people are like, why does he speak so much? We're like, well, he listens to a lot of music. He knows words, and then he just uses them. Like it's like that's because we're not doing anything special with him. Like it's just. We play, and he knows that if he wants to play a song, he has to, like, we have a Google Home. He'll ask the Google Home, like, hey, Google, can you play blah, blah, and then it'll just play for him, and so it's like, it's very interesting. I was just playing him, actually, I was playing American Wilderness, like, probably, like, 2 days ago, just while I was doing chores around the house, and, like, he was just, like, I noticed him, like, he didn't know any of the words, but he was just, like, you could tell he was, like, listening. I was like, oh, sweet, that's good. That's really cool. So that's the thing I love about music. And I know you have a little one. Is the music a big thing for you guys in your household, or?
Yeah. He's our son is 2.5. He hasn't quite figured out how to ask the Google Home yet.
I say keep it for as long as possible because it does get a little annoying to me.
I mean, currently it's Jingle Bells. He wants to hear like every single version of Jingle Bells ever made. And his favorite before that was the song "This Is Halloween."
Oh, nice.
The Nightmare Before Christmas, but not his favorite version was the Marilyn Manson version of the song.
Nice.
Which actually is pretty good. he kind of nailed it.
That's actually super hilarious. Not to go. This is how we go off track. But so is Marilyn Manson's from Florida? Is he from? He's from South Florida.
I actually didn't know that he was from Florida.
So
I knew that we have Creed and Limp Bizkit.
Legit.
Nice.
That is true.
And we have some.
You're like, hey, we also have Tom, but no, not just Creed. You got Bert Kreischer too. I know Bert Kreischer's Florida. He's a comedian, but I was listening to actually. I think it was it was Chris Graba, and Chris Graba was talking about how he bought his first record when he went, and he was going to buy, like, I think it was like Prince's Purple Rain, and the clerk talked him into buying Fugazi. And the guy was like, man, is like, it'd be real cool if you could find that clerk. And he's like, well, no, I know who it is. It's Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson sold me the record. And they were like, he was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he looked like Marilyn Manson when he worked at the record store. Like, it was wild. It was like, so yeah, that's wild. And I know Dashboard's South Florida. They were South Florida.
Yeah. Dashboard, Newfound Glory. There was a whole scene from down there. Further Seems Forever.
Further Seems Forever is great record. Great. I love those. Love those records. So I guess that kind of leads a little bit. We'll get into your music. So for me, because I'm a giant music nerd, and I know like a lot of people will be like, you sound like X, Y, and Z, but for me, you have a very unique sound. It's very. I might use the wrong word, but like it's very Americana-y, like, because it's very like you can hear the stripped downness of it, like, and like your voice is very like that, but it's also has a sort of electronic tone to it. Your music does, and so
some like
it reminds me, and I don't know if you're a fan. It reminds me of if Bright Eyes is Wide Awake This Morning and Digital Ash and Digital Urn were like smashed together.
Okay, I like that.
So I don't know if you've ever heard that, but that's
I do get Bright Eyes comparisons sometimes. I think because of the way that I sing, I have that like vibrato, voice that Rovers kind of has too. I used to get compared to when I was younger. I was compared to, I'm trying to remember his name, the Counting Crows singer.
Oh, Adam Duritz.
Adam Duritz, and then now it's more like. Bright Eyes and sometimes Michael Stipe.
I can see that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, I was like, and I love Bright Eyes, so that's a massive.
Same.
So and but like it also like I don't know, it's like weird because you don't really have you're like one of those artists that you don't have a home for me. Like it's not like you know, like you can take like this artist and they're like in that category, they're this category, but you kind of like. You're a mix of a ton of different things. So like if as I had to equate it, if I had to explain to somebody who doesn't know you, like if you put on like 5 different Pandora stations and then like you could easily pop up on all 5 of those Pandora stations.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know if it was just because I'm close to my own music, but I've always had a hard time when people ask like, what does your music sound like? Like my answer is something like, kind of folky, kind of a little alternative, but kind of pop too.
Right? Yeah.
Says nothing basically.
You're like, it's music, and it's got music, and it's
I mean, I like a lot of different kinds of music, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. And this will be the last overtly like crazy compliment I give you. No, I'll probably give you more, but like part of the reason why I love your catalog of music is like most artists, there's very few artists that I know that I like where I'm like this. Usually it's like they have one big record and like most of their stuff comes off that, and then like you might have like a few other ones sprinkled out. If I were to put together like a greatest hits of Matt Hires, like it would be pretty well represented off of most of your records. Like So like, it is like
that's a good compliment.
Like I don't think of it's like a backhanded compliment because it's like I don't think of one record when I think of you. Like I think of like your entire work because it's like you have so many good songs on each record that it's like I could put in any of your records and be like, I'm gonna listen to this thing for a while right now. Like so
I appreciate that.
yeah. So, and one of my favorite records though is and I always forget it has a lyric for the title of the record.
I know which one you're trying to come up with.
Wishing on Dead Stars. Yes.
Well, the lyrics from that, I gave this album the most obnoxiously long title. So
I knew the title of the record. I didn't know the title of the song. I was
gotcha. Yeah, the record is Will Last Forever, but Tonight We Can't Pretend.
Yeah.
From Wishing on Dead Stars, yeah.
But I love that song. It reminds me of Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire."
Okay, that was kind of what we're. Okay. I wrote it with a friend of mine. Do you know the band the Damwells?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Alex Deason from the Damwells. We actually wrote a handful of songs on that record together.
Nice.
But when we were going into writing that song, we're like, let's try to write something that's like We Didn't Start the Fire, but for people who grew up in the 90s.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. It's like literally like, I'm like, man, this is like flashback.
It kind of, the song kind of comes to a head at literally at the New Year's of like Y2K.
Yeah.
So it kind of the 90s. And
it's so weird too because it's like that song I was listening to it the other day. I listened to it a lot, but I was listening to it the other day just in preparation for this, and it's actually really like kind of spot on for how it feels now. Like too, like if you listen to it, you're like the part where you turn an artificial light on in a digital city. I'm like, that's what we're doing like now, basically. Like I watch my kids do e-learning. I watch and I know it's like kind of meant sort of like I feels like it at the time when I heard it the first time, it felt more like a commentary on the music industry, but like
it was more of like talking about going through the 90s, talking about kind of the mainstream like dawn of the internet, basically.
Yeah. And now it's like it feels like so spot on. You're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's probably, if I had to pick one song, that's probably my favorite song, just because I enjoy. I also am a huge Billy Joel fan, so it's
nice. I appreciate that. That last verse that talks about Y2K. I'm trying to remember how it goes. I can't even remember my own lyric. I cut out the lights in the night of Y2K so I could hold you close and say it's not the end. That actually came from my actual New Year's Eve Y2K experience. I was in Fort Lauderdale at my friend's house, and his parents were having a New Year's Eve party, and everybody was worried about Y2K and stuff. His parents actually, I had forgotten this until just now. They were always like figuring out interesting ways of making money. And I remember they were selling like Y2K merch, like mouth pads and t-shirts and stuff. So it was like a big thing in their mind. And so we go outside to like the main breaker box, and we hear them counting down to midnight, and then at midnight we flipped it. We thought something had happened, but then I think it took probably less than half a minute. People realized that like all the other houses on the street had cars and stuff. So.
That's hilarious though. That's yeah. It's so funny because like those little like lyrical like things that like you can like add in. It's like the story is really good. I suggest anybody who's listening to this who may not know who you are or haven't been very. You definitely heard Matt Hires, because if you've been in any grocery store, like you've definitely heard Matt Hires.
Home Depot. I personally never hear my songs in Home Depot, but everyone's constantly saying that, which is weird because I feel like I'm in Home Depot all the time. But
yeah, well, so I can't say what I do for a living. I deliver things. I'm a vendor for. Okay. So I'm in grocery stores a lot. I hear constantly, "Honey, Let Me Sing You a Song" and "Restless Heart" all the time.
Really?
All the time.
Usually when people say they have heard one of my songs out, it's typically "Honey, Let Me Sing You a Song." But
yeah, I hear "Restless Heart" a lot, though. Actually, to be honest with you,
nice.
It's weird.
How does that work when you get on these like grocery stores or like big box store like soundtracks? Because it's just like this weird like I remember working at a retail store at an outlet mall, and we just had this like box in the back that played music. I mean,
yeah. So there's like these Muzak playlists, and there's these different companies that just make playlists for stores. And when I was on Atlantic, they had somebody that would get my music and all those. So that's why you wouldn't hear anything from like American Wilderness or anything I've released independently on one of those playlists, probably. But
you should though. That's my favorite. That's my favorite record of yours, like as a whole. Like,
thank you. Yeah, my favorite that I've made. So.
It's definitely like it's a very interesting, like from start to finish. You're just like, man, like you're like. And some of them, I'm terrible with names of songs. I'm like, oh, track 7. That doesn't make sense. No, because I'm still a CD guy or whatever. But a Holy War and there's another one. I wrote it down because I knew I was gonna screw it up. Glory Bound is like another, like those some of those records are like, man, I'm like, this song should have been huge. Like it's got like the right, like it's got a good rhythm, it's got a good cadence. There's the material is actually like of value, which it's like, I think when people like dig into that record, and the way I perceive that record, I guess is like my own thing, and it's like something I've struggled with in my own, is like I'm a spiritual person, and some of it is very obviously not open-ended, but it's like it's a little bit more peel back the curtain. It seems like a religious type record, sort of.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up. My dad was a pastor. I grew up in like evangelical Christianity, and a lot. That record for me was like my deconstructing record. I started writing it pretty much like right when I moved to Nashville. I think that had something to do with it, just like being in a new place and kind of like re-examining my whole life, led me to kind of re-examining the faith that I've been given, and so that most of that record is kind of wrestling with stuff, especially like Holy War, the two songs you mentioned, Holy War and Glory Bound.
Yeah, which part of the reason I like them, because it's like I don't think I've ever really heard like that kind of sort of candidness of it, like you can like kind of like go along with the journey, especially like if you've been in that situation. Like, I mean, I've struggled with my religion for a long time, moving around. I have aunts and uncles that have worked in the church, and then like also like my family wasn't really like church goers, but then like we were at certain points, but then we weren't, and then like it's very, very strange. And then my wife is but she even her, she struggles with like what she believes. And it's like we went to a mega church, and then it's like so it's like we've had the whole experience. So it's like I definitely like could feel like you're like, okay, there's something, but like, why are we so closed-minded about it? Like there's like this, and that's the thing I struggle with, I think, most, is like the closed-mindedness of some of those kind of places. Is like I'm like, I just want to be a good person and love people. Like,
I mean, that's kind of how, to me, like that record is kind of a journey. Like you go through all this stuff, and then the last song on the album is called "Don't Let Your Heart Grow Cold," and it's kind of like the landing point of the album. I feel like basically about like, don't let your heart grow cold. Don't continue to open your heart up and be a good and loving human being.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely love it. That's what it's literally. It's like and you just write really good, catchy songs. To be honest with you, I don't know. Like I know like, that's probably the goal, but like it's like they're just all so like. You're like, and I think that's why, like the comment I gave earlier, like there's so many good songs. It's like it's almost like in the old days, like if you release a record and like you had maybe 3 singles, right? It was like, okay, we're gonna give you 3 singles, but then like there's albums that are like some of my favorite albums where I'm like, there's like 10 singles on this thing.
Yeah,
like that's what most of your records feel like. I'm like, this could have easily been released. That could have been released. Like, what are we doing? So yeah, so like, and I really love like the lyrical side of it. I'm a big lyrics person too. Like that's like my big thing. And the other one I wanted to hit on was When I Was Young. That's like my other favorite song off your second album. And then there's always been a lyric, and I think recently I figured out what it was, but it's now I'm gonna blank the lyric, but it's like it's the part where you say I put down at 17 I put down my gun. That part.
Yeah.
So his guitar in the trenches. I always found that as an interesting line, and I think I know why it's a line now. But you at one point thought you were going to go to military school, correct?
Yeah. So that was my plan out of high school. I wanted to go to West Point, and I met like a bunch of qualifications, but I was homeschooled, and they really want to know like where you are in your class. And like, I don't know, it's just me and my brother.
Valedictorian.
You're like, I'm number one. my brother's the dumb one.
So the plan was I was going to go to there was a military prep school in Alabama. I was going to go there for a year and then go to West Point. And before going to this prep school in Alabama, I think we went there for like 2 weeks, and they had like their own sort of like mini boot camp kind of thing. And then we went to ROTC boot camp in Fort Knox.
Yeah.
It was like a month and a half. So I think it was like 2 months total or something like that. And I realized very early on, like, oh shit, this is not for me. I finished it just because I knew, like, well, one, I wanted to do it for myself to make sure, like, because I put so much time and energy. I mean, everything that goes into trying to get into West Point is a lot.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to just, in like week one, throw in the towel. So I did the whole thing, and still by the end was like, yeah, no, I'm out.
Like, still not for me. Still not.
Yeah. So, I mean, I still like, it was a good experience looking back. It was good having had gone through that. But definitely glad that I made that pivot. And I mean, it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make, because like my whole family and like church community and everything had been so like behind me and supportive of like me going to West Point and being that being my life. And it is like that's your life once you do that. Then you're like, I was planning on being like career military and stuff like that. And then when you make a 180-degree turn, in a way it kind of felt like I let everybody down. So it was like a real tough decision to have to make. But looking back now, I definitely think it was the right one for me.
Yeah, that's something I think about sometimes. I know Jems probably has a question, but like, so my dad was 30 years military. Wow. I'm 37 now, and I think about it. I thought about it. Me and my wife are at the same age, but like we have a friend who's like maybe 2 years younger than us, and like I'm like, she's about to retire in 3 years, like in 20 years, and I'm like, I think about this. I'm like, man, I was like, had that been the route I chose, like I could almost be retired. Like it'd be like the thing. It's like this weird, like, but it is like, it's a career. Like, it's like my dad did it because he was one of like 11 kids, and he was like, no one else was getting out. He was like, you know what? He's like, I got to do something. And it allowed him to see the world, and we lived all over. And like, I think he's clearly the most put together of his siblings. Like, and like, he's definitely like made something of himself. And it's like one of those like weird things where you're like, it was for him, but it wasn't. Like my dad specifically, when I was 18, I was a good baseball player. Me and Jems were both big baseball players. My dad was like, I was like, man, maybe, I don't know. Like I had this like same hair. I was like, man, maybe I'll join the military. And my dad was like, I joined the military so you don't have to join the military. And like, cause like, I thought it was like honorable. I was like, you know what? I was like, you did it. Like, why can't? And he's like, no, he's like, I wouldn't have done this if I had other options. Like, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, yeah. So
was it a surprise for the people like where you grew up? Like, did you grow up playing in the church band and stuff? Like, did they know you were very talented, or were they like,
I mean, so I didn't really play. That was pretty much the extent of what I did, was play in the church band. Bass was my first instrument. I think I started when I was like 15 in the church band. So I had played for like 3 years at that point, but I hadn't really written anything. I knew like some guitar. So that part, like the music thing kind of came later. I mean, it was a surprise to everyone when I like decided not to do the military thing, but the music thing kind of came a little later from that. I had started getting into playing like acoustic guitar more, and probably within, I would say like 2 or 3 months of the whole Fort Knox thing, I had probably written my first song sometime in there. So it's something that it's still, I mean, at that point, it still wasn't on my radar. Like, oh, this is something I want to do like as my thing. But I had started getting more into like writing and stuff.
Which part do you like? Do you like, you probably enjoy most of it, but like, do you prefer performing, or like if you write like an awesome song, are you like, that feels fantastic?
Probably that feeling is more like what I love. The performing aspect of it was something that I really had to learn how to do. It wasn't something that came naturally for me. I'm pretty like introverted and can be a little socially awkward sometimes, and then like to get in front of people and have to do a thing.
Have you written songs for,
what's that?
Have you helped write songs for other people, or like, or
not much? Like there's people here in Nashville where like that's their job. I've done it.
Scotch and Songs or whatever it was, right?
What's that?
Scotch and Songs. Is that what you guys were doing when you first got there?
So yeah, Scotch and Songs. We still do it sometimes, but we're a little less. Well, obviously this year we're
pandemic-y.
But yeah, it was like a group of songwriters who all of us were friends. We started this thing where we get together. I think we were trying to do it once a month when I first moved up here, but we'd share a bottle of, I think it was only Scotch the first time, and we're like, oh, we're all too poor for this, so let's get a cheaper bourbon for the yeah, share a bottle. And the idea was to like not play something that was fully polished and complete, but to play something that was maybe like 3/4 done, or like you would just finish writing that day and was still had some rough spots, and we'd like, you'd play the song and everyone would kind of like talk about it and stuff. And it was super encouraging and helpful. And yeah, the whole American Wilderness record, everybody at Scotch and Songs heard it first.
Nice. Has anybody else from that group like blown up with anything, or is there anybody we would know from that?
I mean, I wouldn't say like blown up. Everybody in the group is pretty like blue collar musician kind of level. My buddy has a project called Volunteer. He does pretty well.
He toured with you on the American Wilderness tour, right?
Yeah, that was a fun tour. So for that run, like I said, bass was my first instrument. And so Corey's project, Volunteer, it's really just him, but he goes by Volunteer. So our other friends, Brian, who plays drums, and Randy, who produced American Wilderness, but he kind of plays a little bit of everything. The two of them and me and Corey were the band for both sets. I would play bass with him for the Volunteer set, and then he would play bass with me for my set. So it was like the same 4 guys on stage for the Volunteer set and the Matt Hire set. So it was a super fun tour, though.
Hey, it saves teardown time, right?
Yeah, that, and we were able to get all our gear in the tour van, and we could share gas and all that stuff. So.
That's super cool. Yeah, that's the whole do it yourself spirit. That's pretty awesome part, right? Mm-hmm. I do want to jump back a little bit because I find it incredibly interesting. But you were, and we just had this same exact thing on our last podcast mentioned. You were discovered on MySpace.
Yes. In 2007.
Yeah. So
MySpace. So I had been in a band for a while in Tampa. We really only played like Tampa and Orlando. And we had fired our bassist, and we weren't sure what was going on. And I had some stuff up on my MySpace page, and randomly somebody from Atlantic Records heard it. It was a dude who you had mentioned earlier. I was on an imprint with Atlantic called F Stop, and he was searching for like new artists to launch this F-Stop imprint on Atlantic, and he wanted to be like artists who nobody had heard of and kind of use it as like a real like artist development kind of thing. And I was the first. Me and Jonathan Tyler in the Northern Lights, he was from Austin. We were the first two people on F-Stop.
That's it's pretty interesting. So like I've done a little bit of touring as a musician myself.
Oh, cool. What do you play?
I play acoustic guitars mostly. I was in a similar situation. I always wanted to be a band. I never wanted to be a front person. I enjoy writing songs. Like
cool.
I would be a songwriter. If I could do probably anything, I'd probably just be a songwriter, because there's like you were saying, there's just something in the magic of like I can grab my guitar and strum a G chord, and then it's like 2 hours later I could have a song. And then crazy enough, like if that song was good enough, it could become like a song everybody and their mom knows. Like, you know, it's like it's just like those weird, like the fact that you can just pull things. This is what I love about art in general. Just like you can pull something from here and they make it a physical thing. Like it's actually a physical, like, especially like, you know, once you put it onto a CD or something, you know, like whatever, you make it a physical thing out of it. I love vinyls. I'm more of a vinyl guy, but whatever. So in doing that, I had a couple of those. So when I heard your story the first time, I was like, I probably should have maybe like actually like fleshed some of these out, because like I had like 2 or 3 people who were like, oh, I own the studio and like I want to produce your record. And my one regret in like in the music industry is I had the money and it wasn't a lot, and I was gonna fly to San Francisco and I had it literally basically booked, and I just didn't pull the trigger for some stupid ass reason. But I was gonna have 3 songs produced by Chris Walla of Death Cab.
Man, that would have been so cool.
And I didn't do it, and I'm like, I wish to this day, but it's one of those things, like, you know, those experiences. But like, so like the craziness of like, it was almost like the Wild Wild West. MySpace was sort of.
It was weird. Like I feel like there had been a couple things where my band had kind of gotten burned and lost money from whatever, somebody reaching out on MySpace and offering something. And so when I got this message, I was skeptical. First off, it's like, you sent me a MySpace message. How can it actually be somebody from Atlantic Records? I was like, whatever, I'll call the number and see what happens. And I think I was so shocked when the person on the other line actually was somebody from Atlantic Records. I think probably in that first call, I was just in shock the whole time, because I was expecting it to be some kind of
Well, in hearing that thing, so one of the things that always incredibly like intrigues me about people's stories is like how quick things can change. So like, do you have any recollection of like, not, I wouldn't say the day, because that's like kind of stupid, but like maybe that the week leading up to like that message, like where your mind space was at? Like, were you like, would you have just kept trudging down, had that email never came or whatever, like would you have just kept trudging down and continued down with it? Or would it have been like, hey, this is something I'm doing, like I want to put the work into it, I expect something to happen? Were you expecting anything to eventually happen?
So, funny story. Funny you should ask. I think it was either 2 or 3 days before I got that MySpace message, I had proposed to my then girlfriend, now wife. So that's where my head was at.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as music, like I said, my band had pretty much, we hadn't officially broken up, but we had pretty much broken up at that point. We didn't have a bassist. We weren't really a band. And I was like, I didn't think that we had made an album. We tried to shop it to some record labels. Like nothing happened with that.
That record was called Microwavable, right?
Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be like a worship pastor at a church or something like that. And then I got the thing, was stuck to do that.
Life changes. Do you know what song it was that tipped him off? Or
it was Honey, Let Me Sing You a Song.
Okay. I was wondering about that. Like, so like I know there's other songwriters on Wikipedia. It shows there's other songwriters, but like I thought that's the song that I heard you said.
Yeah.
Like,
so
Is that one of those things where you had most of the bones of it, and then there was like tack-ons?
Yeah, on that. So there's a version of "Honey, Let Me Sing You" song on that album that my band put out that doesn't have the bridge lyric. It's just like an instrumental bridge. And when I was recording "Take Us to the Start" with Atlantic, the A&R person was like, I really feel like there should be something here, not just like a musical break. And so my producer and this other dude kind of contributed some to that. Nice. It was kind of it was a thing, because people like, no hard feelings now at this point, but like it was one of those things where people are like wanting percentages, and I'm like, I did 99% of the work on this song.
Yeah, it's wild. That's the crazy thing. Yeah, for sure. But that song, by the way, that song is incredibly fun to play. I know how to play it on guitar, for at least the way I broke it down. Actually, one of my favorite things, I think I have a YouTube video of me doing it, and it's so funny because I forget at the end of it. My daughter fell in love with it when she was like super tiny. Like I play it all the time because it was just like when I learned a song, I'd just play it as much as I could. And so like I'd play it, and she like, it's a very catchy song. And so like, so I have like a video on YouTube of me singing the song. And then at the end, there's like maybe like 15 seconds of me and my like then probably 4-year-old daughter just singing the bridge part of it, or the chorus part of it. So it's like those kind of things, like music wise, like if I play it now for her, she like knows the song. She's like, it's like, and she's 13. So it's like, it's just so funny. You're like, okay, like the things they're going to grow up to. And my kids love music, and one of them takes piano lessons. One of them's taking guitar lessons and singing lessons. And so like, so it's like interesting to see like kind of like what they like and like what they're doing, but like they have such eclectic tastes, because we kind of like, we're like, no, you have to like listen to these things. And ironically, you've toured with two of my wife's favorite bands, Matchbox 20 and Parachute. So, which are big tours. Is there somebody that you're one of the people was your favorite tour you've ever been on, or like toured with? And then is there someone that like, if you had like the opportunity to snap your fingers and be on a tour with, that you haven't toured with, is there someone that immediately comes to mind?
Oh man, that I would want to tour with. I feel like there's a lot. Probably like if Brandon Flowers from the Killers did another solo tour, I would love to open that tour.
One of our soon-to-be guests, he's like one of my good friends. I don't know if you're a comedy fan or not, but a stand-up comedy fan. But my buddy Brant Tobler is actually really good friends with Brandon Flowers.
Really?
Yeah, he started comedy.
That sounds familiar.
He has a Comedy Central not a special, but it's like This Is Not Happening. It's got like 4 million views, so it probably is that, if I had to guess. Interesting story about the time he tried to kill his dad. But but he started comedy in Las Vegas, and that's where the Killers are from. So. Yeah, cool. so he was actually like when they did Madison Square Garden, like he was backstage and stuff. It was like a really good thing. So
that's amazing.
So yeah,
I love
Brandon Flowers.
I love Brandon Flowers solo records. As far as somebody I've toured with, like my favorite tours, honestly, like the two you mentioned, your wife's favorite bands, Matchbox 20 and Parachute, those were both super fun. Probably my favorite though overall was in 2008, I guess it was, because it was really my first real like long nationwide tour that I did, was opening up for Eric Hutchinson.
Nice.
And it was him, and the direct support was a Canadian artist, Megan Smith, and then me opening up solo. And all of us and everybody, all the crew and everyone traveled in just one tour bus together. For like, I think it was like 2 months long.
Nice.
And it was really, really, everybody got along really well. And it was a lot of fun. It was my first time like really seeing the country like that. So it was awesome.
That's super cool.
I was looking at your Wikipedia and it says you opened for Dave Matthews. Was it weird seeing the same people in the crowd 10 days in a row? Because like those fans are nuts.
Yeah. So that fact on my Wikipedia page is slightly misleading, because I wouldn't really, if people ask me like who I've opened for, I probably wouldn't list Dave Matthews, because technically open side stage, which means like I'm on a stage that people just walk past as they're coming into the venue and occasionally pause and like watch for a minute and they're like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna keep going to my seat.
By the way, I'm the guy who like stands there for the whole time because I love those artists.
I know at each one there were typically at least a handful of people that would stay for the whole thing, but most everyone would just walk by.
I actually hate Dave Matthews. I don't hate Dave Matthews. I'm just not a fan of Dave Matthews' music. It's just one of those things. But
kind of yeah, I agree.
But my first serious girlfriend was like the Dave Matthews fan that has like the burn CDs of like, this is the time they played at Red Rocks, and this is like, so she drugged me to a concert, and I actually saw Side Stage opening up Jason Mraz.
Oh, awesome!
So you have good company. You have good company. But that does actually lead me to an interesting story about the time that your song being on Cougar Town led you to opening up for Bruno Mars.
Yes, this is probably my weirdest story. So yeah, I've had songs in. It was mostly ABC shows because the music director, or one of the music directors at ABC, really was a fan. So I had a bunch of like Grey's Anatomy and Private Practice, Cougar Town. I feel like there was.
By the way, I love it because I'm not a Grey's Anatomy fan, but like my 12-year-old daughter is currently re-watching through it with my wife. So I will just be randomly walking through the front room and hear Matt Hires playing. Nice. I'm like, yes.
So I had this just random song in an episode of Cougar Town, which led to, which I didn't find this out, I think, until I was there. But in 2010, my manager got this random email from someone claiming they worked with the Prince of Brunei, which is a tiny little country, I think, on one of like the Malaysian or Indonesian islands, but it's like a tiny little oil-rich country. And he wanted me to play at, I guess every other year he would put on this massive party outside of London. And he wanted me to play. He wanted to fly my wife and I, and actually my manager and his wife, they got in on it too, fly us out to this party, and I would play a couple songs. It wasn't until we were at the party and I talked to him that he said, because I still at this point had no idea how he knew my music. And he said he heard it on Cougar Town. But the party itself was so surreal. There was like, I'm trying to think who all was there. I met Whitney Houston. Pamela Anderson was the like DJ of the party. Or like the MC of the party. Like Usher was there. I'm trying to think about, I don't know. It was wild.
Like an eclectic bunch of people.
Very eclectic bunch of also like old Hollywood actors. I can't remember any names right now, but he was a fan of like classic Hollywood movies and stuff. So there were a lot of older Hollywood actors there. It was wild. It was funny because it was at like my wife and I's absolute poorest part in our marriage. She had recently quit teaching, and yeah, I forget how much we made that year, but it wasn't a lot. And then we get flown out to, I mean, the Prince paid me well too, so that was helpful. But we're like in the middle of all this like extravagance when we were so poor. It was wild, but yeah. So I played 2 songs, and then Bruno Mars played after me. An insane. So I guess I think Bruno Mars had like just finished a show in Ireland, and they flew him and his band. They like picked them up in a helicopter and flew them to this party. And they played. And honestly, I wasn't a Bruno Mars fan before that, but he was so fucking good live. It was so much fun.
It's so wild. I was gonna actually, while you were, I heard that on another podcast. That's why I was like, I definitely got to ask. But the thing I was thinking when I was listening to you tell it on the other podcast was, I know you said your wife was there. I was like, is there any point at that party where you guys look at each other and be like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Oh, that whole thing. It kind of felt like we were in some weird shared dream. It was so wild. There were like, it was a 2-day party. So we like got there one night and it was like poker night. Obviously, I said we were at our poorest. We were not playing poker with these people. We just hung out and ate and like drank expensive scotch and stuff. And then the next day was filled with like air shows and just all this stuff, crazy stuff throughout the day. And then that night was I'm trying to think what else happened at the party. I think Pamela Anderson did some kind of dance from like she had been on Dancing with the Stars recently or something. Yeah. Okay.
So you're saying when these princes email you, actually send them money so they can support this.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen if you email a prince.
I was going to say
a note. That prince actually died recently.
Oh, really?
Somebody emailed because somebody who knew about this story sent me this article, and I forget what happened. He was only like, I want to say like maybe 4 or 5 years older than me.
Yeah. Damn, yes.
Wild. Yeah.
That's wild. Well, so that just actually made me think like you've like a couple weird emails have like really like had some pretty
yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't even have a phone. You should just get emails. Like, people just email. That's so wild. Well, so I definitely there was a bunch of other stuff that like I wanted to talk to you about, but as far as like and I'm now my head brain because we just did another podcast. I'm blanking in it. I don't want to screw the title up, but your new song that you just released that I've been binging. It's
Break No More.
Yeah, it's Break No More.
Yeah.
I wanted to say No More Break, and I was like, that's wrong. But yeah, so you did this a couple of times, I think, throughout your career. Like I think A to B is on like an EP. Heartbreak Machine's like just kind of a one-off.
Yeah, Heartache Machine was a EP that I put out like right after I left Atlantic and was independent because I kind of had like 4 or 5 songs lying around that I just recorded and put out my first just to get something out there. And start the whole like independent thing. But
and now you have Break No More. Is that gonna be like is that the tip of the iceberg for like a new record, or is that a tip of the iceberg for maybe an EP or like?
Yeah, I wish I could say yes, but not currently. I haven't done a ton of writing lately. I feel like I'm coming into a phase where I'm gonna get back into writing more. But I had that song kind of lying around, and a buddy of mine had just recorded. He had just gotten a bunch of like equipment to have a little like pretty simple but quality home studio, and he was working on like getting all his stuff dialed in and everything. So we're like, hey, let's do a song and see what happens, and it turned out great. So,
yeah. No, I love it. I love it. I love that it feels like a continue. Like if you played that and like Fighting the Ghosts, like back to back, like it feels like you could draw a straight line to them.
Yeah, and I think honestly that's one of the things that has stunted my writing is I put too much pressure on myself because I want my next album to be that, for it to feel like a real like next step from American Wilderness, because that was a lot of like deconstruction and wrestling and stuff, and I want the next project to be like, okay, after that comes this. And Break No More, I like you were saying, very much does feel like that, but I kind of want that to continue through the rest of whatever the next project is.
Yeah, I found it really interesting. I was like, oh, like sweet, like, and then I like started listening to it. And I was like, man, this is really, really good. Like, it definitely does feel like a step, like step up, and then but like you're already at a pretty high level anyway. So it's a solid. Like I was like, man, this is like great. And I'm like, I'm a music nerd, but I when I find like a good song, I'm like, all right, that's gotta, like in the old days, like I'm like, that's gotta go on the it's on my phone actually. Like I literally have it on my phone. And so like I have like this playlist that has like probably like, I don't know, like 250 songs, and like so at any time I just add to it. I don't add to it very often. It's like, okay. Like there's not that many good songs anymore, it seems like. No, there's plenty of good songs out there. It's just like it's hard to find nowadays. Like
it can be hard to find them for sure.
You're like, man, because it's either you have such an abundance of like things thrown at you, or like you're just like, man, there's like no substance to this. Like I very much have to have like the lyrics have to be good, and like it has to have some feeling. And like it's the thing I struggle with like really good singers. Like I know people are like, oh, American Idol and all that kind of stuff. It's like if you're a really good singer, that's awesome, and it's a hard thing to do. But like that to have to feel the person when they're doing the song is like,
I'm definitely drawn to unique voices more than like just really good voices.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I know, like seeing you live, I've seen you live 3 times, and each time it really feels like you're feeling it. Like, and those are my favorite. Those are the artists I really like. The ones that are like you can tell like they have some kind of connection to that material. Like, which so and kind of speaking of that, like I know like so much so like and I kind of like become like a super fan of those bands. So much so is like funny enough, we went to go see Matchbox 20 right after my son was born, and it was the year Tom Petty died, and so it was shortly after, and they played like I think it was like super shortly after, and they like had a spot in the Matchbox set where like they just kind of put a light on the microphone and it played Tom Petty song played, and the whole place was just singing. And I actually thought of you in that moment because I know you're a big Tom Petty fan, and like that's one of your influences. Is there like any weird influences that like maybe people wouldn't like necessarily put the pulse on? Like you're like, man, I'm a huge Devo fan, or I don't know. Like,
I don't know if it would be an influence. Like I like rap and stuff, which I don't feel like that's an influence. I'm trying to think.
Like the lyrical stylings of Eminem.
Yeah.
Well, I could kind of see that though when you say that. Like maybe it's not like I don't think like it would be the first thing I thought of. I think I think the way you put words together, something does come.
Maybe there's some kind of influence from that. I super like respect the way a good rapper can put words together. And now that I'm thinking about like cadence of the words is really important to me.
Yeah.
So maybe that comes from.
Yeah, it's definitely something I noticed. I noticed like the way you say words in like certain phrases, especially like throughout like the second and third record. Like I could definitely like you could definitely like I think you could. Now that like you say it, like I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely like I could see that. I could see where that could be.
Maybe. I mean, I don't listen to a lot, but there are like artists I really really love, like Kendrick Lamar and
nice.
More recently, I found this dude. Toby and Wigway.
I've heard him.
He's from Houston. I've only gotten into one of his albums so far, and this was like 4 days ago. But I love it. I've listened to it probably like 4 times already. But,
nice. So you're like me when you find something you listen to.
Sometimes I used to not be that way, but more recently, yeah.
I demolish records. Like I was just like it's weird. And music has like a weird thing for me. Like I just like, and this is how like how our podcast go. I was driving home the other day and I threw in my buddy Carter Halsey. He has his last record. And I threw it in and like maybe like the third song is called Vodka Soda, and like just like singing at the top of my lungs in the car by myself. It's like 8 o'clock at night after a long ass day at work. Yeah. And like I was like crying and like shit. Like you're like the music really like when you find something like that like touches you, you're like, oh yeah, that's like. And I feel like more and more at it nowadays. And I'm gonna sound like an old man, but like it doesn't seem like a lot of music is doing that. Like there's some records that like I'm finding like I find records through my last when I did an interview with my buddy Carter. Like he turned me on to Phoebe Bridger, and like so I've been consuming that record a bit, and like those feel like real like. There's connection there.
You heard you had brought up Bright Eyes earlier. She did a project with Conor Oberst.
Yeah, I just found out about it. Like I haven't listened to it yet.
I love that album. Also an album that came out this year from her, I'm pretty sure it's her guitarist. His name's Christian Lee Hudson.
Okay.
Yeah, I recommend that one. It's really, really good.
I'm writing that down right now. I love that. Actually, kind of leads. I do have that question written down on my thing. Is there any artist that you think people should know about?
I might say this on like every podcast I've been on in the past couple of years, but my favorite band. It's weird saying they're my favorite band because I've only been aware of them it's not like a Tom Petty or something like that. Yeah. I've only been aware of this band for like 2-3 years now. But it's an Australian band called Gang of Youths.
Okay.
They put out a record in, I think it was in 2017 or 18, called Go Farther in Lightness. That's my #1 favorite album.
Nice.
It's so good. I think you just from hearing like your music taste so far, I think you'd like it a lot. So
I'm gonna check that out for sure. Dude, I'll give you a full breakdown. I'll give you like no, I love it, and I love talking to musicians about like the people that they like, because I think they look at it in a different realm. I like, it's like kind of like what I have. When I talk to like my comedian friends, I'm like, if you know how the math of things work to tell a joke, that like it changes how you observe it, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And even though I didn't do it, I mean, I did get paid to do it, not to the level of you guys, but like, I feel like I look at things a lot from that aspect. And so it's hard for me to like, just listen to like the mainstream things that like people are like, oh, this, I mean, there's some things in the mainstream that are just phenomenal, but like, like I like to find like those things, those little niches and those little those little cubby holes of like, oh, this thing's like,
and that's why I like, you had mentioned earlier that you collect vinyl. That's what I love about vinyl. Like when I do find something I love, getting that and then just like listen to the whole record from front to back is what I love to do.
There's something about it. I actually, my vinyl record player, you can plug into your computer and it makes MP3s of it playing, sounding like vinyl.
Cool.
So it's awesome. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I just in doing this research on you, realized that you have a vinyl version of American Living, so I'll be ordering that soon.
If you want to order, it's available at matthires.bandcamp.com.
and it's a phenomenal record. It's a phenomenal record. The thing once people started doing, and I don't know if yours is like that, but I mean, I already own it. I already own the MP3s of them. But like, like once people started doing like, hey, you can buy the vinyl, and then we'll just give you the download card too. Yeah. Like it was like, it's a no-brainer. I'm buying vinyl every day.
Yeah, totally. My vinyl doesn't have that, but I think it's just because I figure that most people would listen to it on Spotify or something anyway.
Yeah. But it's absolutely like, I suggest anybody who listens to this who for some reason hasn't realized who Matt Hires is, go listen to Matt Hires. It's great stuff. So, is there anything else, Jems, that you wanted to ask?
I have a couple things. So I was taking notes here, and I looked down at my hand and realized I had a bunch of smudges on my hand. And every episode, Tone and I ask our guests what handed they are, because we are both left-handed.
Yes.
And we forgot.
I'm right-handed.
Right. Okay. So I think we had all right-handeds and a no-handed.
Yeah.
He's a comedian.
Yeah. Okay. He considered himself no-handed, but I would call him left-handed the way he was talking about what he does.
But yeah, both of his brothers are left-handed, so we're just gonna we might just claim him. We're gonna claim him.
Yeah, I'm right-handed. My wife and I are still trying to figure out what our son is. He's 2.5, but maybe he's just like pretty ambidextrous, because like sometimes it seems like he's definitely right-handed and sometimes not. So I don't know.
Well, it's weird because it's like every left-handed person I know is basically ambidextrous, just because we've been forced. You
have to live in the right hand.
Yeah, in the world. It's really screwed up.
It's really dangerous being left-handed. Everything's made for right-handed people.
Makes sense.
I play guitar right-handed. I think I walked Jems through it. I think he's a right-handed guitar player too. I think we were
for the 3 weeks of lessons I took in 4th grade. I think we figured out I play right-handed.
Yeah,
which I mean, in a lot of ways, that makes almost more sense. That you would be doing the more intricate things with your dominant hand.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It actually gave me strength back in my hands. So like I tore my elbow to shreds twice, and I couldn't feel my fingertips. And I love music. Long story short, I've talked about it before. Like I went through a severe bout of depression over a bunch of stuff, but like I literally basically tried to end my life, and I found part of the reason why Dashboard's my favorite band is somebody had given me a burnt CD of his first record, and it was sitting on the top of the pile, and I was like, I need something to play. I'm in this apartment for 7 days by myself till somebody came back. It was over a holiday, and I played that record for 7 days straight, basically. And I had a guitar in our house, and so I kind of tinkered with it a little bit, but I hadn't really ever learned proper. And when I couldn't feel my fingertips, because I'm left-handed, it actually gave me strength to push the strings down. So that was kind of like therapy. So
yeah.
So when I think of playing guitar, or when I play guitar, I'm like, I always think of like baseball. It's weird. Like they kind of go together for me. So. Yeah.
And then the other thing I had, you co-wrote a song with Sarah Bareilles.
Yeah.
Was that a label thing, or how did you link up with her?
So that we weren't on the same label, but we had the same the producer that I made pretty much everything. Well, not pretty much everything. Everything I released on Atlantic with. His name's Eric Ross. He did her first album.
Was he the one that wanted her to write a love song and she said no?
No, this was after that. But yeah, we were working on stuff for the album, and I think what happened was, I'm trying to remember, like he had been trying to get her comfortable with the idea of co-writing because she didn't want to do that at all. So he thought that like she would enjoy writing with me with like my style or whatever. And so, yeah, she came in and we wrote it. It was a song on the first album called "You in the End."
Yeah.
She sang the background on that. Is that right?
What's that?
Did she sang on that too? Didn't she?
Yeah, she sang the background vocals on it.
Mm-hmm. She makes really good records too. So
yeah, I really like her.
Yeah, she was awesome.
One of the best concerts I've ever been to, actually, is my first Red Rocks concert here, and we saw One Republic, and she opened up for them. So it was pretty amazing.
I've never seen a show at Red Rocks. So.
It's a must do. If you get a chance, do it. I don't know if music's ever coming back live, but hopefully for your sake it is.
I know, for real.
I did have one other question. I don't know if Jems,
no, you're good.
Live music. Do you plan on doing more house shows once things open up, or is it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's really like the past couple of years has become like my main way of touring. I really love doing it. It's easy to throw a tour together too.
Yeah. I actually missed. I think the last time you were here in Denver. I think last time you were in Denver, I was some stupid reason I was out of damn town. Okay. I'm never out of town, and I was out of town. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. It was wild, and it was the same week. I think it was like I was gonna go to two of them. It was you, and she was mainly caught sensation on YouTube, but like, have you ever heard of Julia Nunes?
Yes,
she plays like ukulele mostly.
Okay, yeah, I know that.
But she makes some interesting music. But she was like here, like she was in Colorado Springs like the day after, I think it was, and I was out of town. I was like, motherfucker. Yeah,
man.
I do have one more thing.
Next year at some point.
Oh, sweet. I'm definitely be there.
With Nashville, is it as fun as everybody says? Like, is it like, I know you said your son's like 2.5, but like, did you get to experience much of like the nightlife of Nashville when you guys got there?
Yeah. I mean, like the main tourist section of Nashville is like the downtown Broadway honky tonk strip, which I have no use for except for there's one honky tonk called Robert's Western World that is a gym, and everybody should go visit that spot. Once you're vaccinated and all this is over.
Right.
Is that the place that has like bologna sandwiches?
Yes. Yeah. I forgot how much it is, but like a fried bologna sandwich and a PBR is like $4 or something like that.
Great.
Robert's is awesome though. Like it's mostly classic country and like 50s rock and roll that they play there. But yeah, I mean, Nashville's a really fun town. Whether when you get off the touristy beaten path, it's super fun. So we've loved living here. Like you said, we have a 2.5-year-old, so there's been less. It's more hanging with friends at their houses these days, which is also great.
Right.
Well, dads are the best people anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. We're fortunate in that, like, a lot of our best friends either like had kids or adopted around the same time we did, so we kind of all shifted into this next phase of life together, which has been
nice.
Good. Mm-hmm.
That's super awesome. Yeah, I mean. I think that definitely is like I know for me it was definitely a shift for me. Like I definitely like there's like I tell people all the time like there's like there was like my thoughts pre being a parent, and then there was definitely thoughts post being a parent. I think you definitely like think of things in a different way for sure. Which is why I was wondering because American Wilderness is the only record, obviously. Well, I guess that was beforehand. Huh?
Before, yeah, that was because he was born in 2018.
Yeah. So I was gonna say because that seems like the record you were right after being a parent. So like I had all of those thoughts. That's definitely when that kind of really came to light for me. It was like I was like, oh, now I'm gonna really actually, and this leads to like the one question I definitely wanted to ask was after being a parent, like I really started, and it's a kind of selfish but not selfish. I kind of started thinking of like the legacy that I was leaving. Like not necessarily like what I accomplished or whatever, but I was like, the things I'm going to teach my kids is going to be their foundation. That's going to, and it's like I really started getting into that. So, with you, a two-pronged question on that. Like, do you think about that much, or like what you kind of really want, like your son to like kind of have as like a baseline, and then also, is there a thing where have you ever thought of the legacy that you are leaving, like when your son is like 20 and like he's like, oh, my dad wrote songs that were on this show, like because obviously like Grey's Anatomy is like a massive show. Like there's a possibility at some point he watches that show and he's like, oh shit, my dad is singing that song.
I mean, I guess it's maybe not something I've really thought a lot about until more recently. More thinking about it in terms of like how now that he's like coming into an age where he will have memories and stuff, like how will he remember me through his childhood and that kind of thing. But I mean, as far as the music thing, the legacy that I would like to pass on to him with that is to like not be afraid to take risks. And if you like have something you think you're really good at, or like have something that want to do something that makes you happy, like don't be afraid to go after it.
That's the one thing that I think I've definitely learned from, and it's kind of like what I definitely how I live my life, I guess, post being a parent. Like I'm obviously more like cautious because I now put myself in this life where like I provide for a family and like my job pays for that, but I'm still chasing my dreams. Like I love podcasts. So like I produce 2 podcasts and I get paid to do that, but it's like, it's definitely still a side gig, but it's like something I'm working to fulfill as like becoming the main thing. So it's like, so like I definitely push that on my kids. I'm like, what, I don't care what you want to do. Like my son's been hitting a baseball off a tee since he was 9 months old. He couldn't even walk, and he's really good at baseball, but if he says I want to be a dancer, I'm gonna be like, yo, let's go. Like, well, I'm gonna support your dreams. Like, that's the one thing I definitely want my kids to follow is like follow their dreams, because I think the thing you love is definitely, if you can make a living doing it, then you should definitely do that as much as you can.
Yeah,
you're gonna have a happier life, it seems like. For sure. And so I guess like speaking of like youthful optimism, and stories, we can segue this into our draft, which we do in every single episode. And
how many rounds do y'all go?
5 rounds. I actually thought about this earlier. I have so many. I was like, we maybe make an exception if Matt's cool with it, if he wants to go more rounds. We might.
I think I told you I have 17 picks.
Yeah, I think I have 19 on my list. So this is the first time I've ever asked a guest, because usually we let the guest pick where they pick in order. How many rounds do you want to go? We'll let you decide how many rounds you want to go.
No, let's go. Let's bump up another round. Let's do 6 rounds.
6 rounds. I like it. Okay. All right. So we're going 6 rounds. This is, by the way, I usually I'm going to be like, I think the first draft we did, I didn't even study for.
Okay.
Like, I was just like, I got this. Like, this one, I was like, dude, I gotta, like, literally, this might be the bulk of my work here.
I hope I'm still a little unsure of my rankings, but, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, this is a tough one. So we're kind of talking around it, but if you're listening, we're about to do a 90s kids movie draft, PG and under rating. Mm-hmm. So G and PG, because I don't think there's anything under G. But
how old are y'all? I guess y'all around the same age I am.
I'm 38. So, okay. By the way, your birthday is the day after my oldest daughter's birthday.
Nice. I'm 35, so I'm like right in between. So yeah, a lot of these were like, this was like a sweet spot for my childhood, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So just for reference, I was 7 when the 90s started. So Matt, you were 5.
5,
roughly?
Yeah, 4.
And I was negative 30 days old when it started. My birthday's January 30th, 1990.
So we might have an upper hand on Jim.
There were some movies that I was like, "Ooh, I got to put this one down." And I realized it was like a late 80s movie or something like that.
So. Mine was the opposite, but it was early 2000s. I was like,
oh. By the way, I'm totally going to say I didn't mention it. I did have it written down, but I'm not. You and your family are awesome at fucking Halloween dress up. I don't know why. That was just fun. I scrolled through your Instagram, like you guys were just Jurassic Park. The reason I remember that is because I thought I put Jurassic Park on my list, and I was like, "Fuck, it's not."
Yeah,
I wouldn't call that a kid movie.
The first 13 movie I ever saw was
yeah. But so going back through just to reference the ones I saw, you were Jurassic Park. Your family was, and then I saw was Desi Stranger Things on there. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah. One year I don't think that was a family. I was trying to think what Rachel was that year, but I was 11.
And then you were Mr. Rogers?
Yeah. Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Last year I was Mr. Rogers. My wife was Lady Aberlin and our son was Daniel Tiger.
Nice. By the way, that Mr. Rogers movie, I just watched it again, over maybe 2 months ago, the documentary. Amazing.
I still haven't seen the Tom Hanks movie, but the documentary.
I haven't either. The documentary is amazing, man.
Oh yeah.
So
I have a funny Jurassic Park story. So Jurassic Park came out in 93 or 94, I think.
93. I have it written down. It is 93. Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of this kids movie draft, my mom brings it home when it gets released on VHS. So I'm 3 or 4 at this point. I think she's just like, "Oh, a dinosaur movie. Jared will like that. He likes Land Before Time."
There's kids in it.
I was terrified of dinosaurs for ever.
Yeah, that's a little bit different than Land Before Time.
Yeah,
I don't know how far she let me get into it before she was like, "What the hell did I do?" But I have an older brother, so he was into it. So I think I was just stuck watching it, being petrified.
I've not watched the dude getting eaten off the toilet before it got turned off.
I don't remember much about it. I know I was petrified from it, and I still have not watched it.
Hey, my mom did the same thing, but she knew I loved baseball, so she bought me Major League when I was 5. And
that's a good mom.
Not a movie you should be watching at 5.
Did you follow it up with Bull Durham or?
No, I had already seen Bull Durham, but it just bits and pieces, just the baseball parts. Oh man, but yeah, so we're about to have fun with this. I think this is definitely the best topic. Although I will warn you, we did just have an amazing wrestler draft, pro wrestler draft with our last guest. It was pretty awesome.
Nice.
We had thought actually at one point we were gonna, because we had a little bit of scheduling conflict. Mm-hmm. We weren't sure how it was gonna work. I came up with the idea. I almost was like, we'll just overlap them, and Matt can join, and then Ryan can join.
I didn't grow up watching wrestling or anything, so I would have been terrible at.
Coming from a pastor's family, but in the Attitude Era, that's probably right in the wheelhouse there.
yeah, probably that would have been good. But I feel like this draft we are going to be spot on with this. This is going to be fun. Right. So we're going 6 rounds at the longest draft that we've done. So at Matt's discretion. I like the 6th round. It's going to make me feel less terrible about leaving some of these out. Now, we do snake draft. I'm sure you've done fantasy football. You've talked about fantasy football on here. By the way, also, your interview that you did with Daniel Dopp, I can't find on the internet for some reason, but Daniel Dopp is a Lions fan. We are both Lions fans, obviously. I wish I'm going to need to get Daniel on the podcast. He's a big music guy too. And so, so I know you know about fantasy football. So it's the same thing. So we're doing a snake draft. So there's 3 of us. Obviously, if you take the first pick, you get the 6th pick. If you take the 2nd pick, you get the 5th pick. If you take the 3rd pick, you're getting the 4th pick, etc. There is an added little bit to this because usually if you take the 3rd pick, you also get the last pick. But now, since we have an extra round, now the person who takes the 1st pick gets the last pick. So there's a little bit different strategy to it. So we allow our guests to pick their draft selection of where they draft.
I'm always a fan of like the middle spot. So I'll go number 2.
Dude, everyone except for our last guest has picked number 2.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. So Jems, I can't remember. Did you pick?
It's your turn to pick.
Okay. I'm gonna martyr myself because I feel like I got a deep draft list here. I'm gonna take the 1st pick.
Okay.
So I'll take the 1st and last pick. So, all right. So let me write this down, and then we will get picking. Yeah, and I know we're doing kids movies. I put some that I think are on the list that should be on the list. They are definitely all PG and under. If you guys want to tell me that they don't count as a kids movie, then I feel free.
Is it Die Hard?
Yeah, no, I don't think. I'm going to guess Die Hard is not a PG movie.
Well, I just feel like it's a Christmas movie conversation every year.
But I mean, we're here. Matt, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I'd say yeah. I mean, I'm not going to watch it to get in the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's like wild because like every year ABC Family shows every Harry Potter movie around Christmas time. So like part of me thinks I should watch the Harry Potter movies during Christmas.
I mean, I guess there's like probably some like Christmas element in each Harry Potter movie, but I think there's probably like a Halloween.
Yeah.
They just go through the whole school year.
So. Right.
Fair enough. Well, that leads perfectly into my 1st pick. And it may not be the typical 1st pick, but I feel like it's legit. It has Halloween elements. It has Christmas elements.
Ooh.
I'm going The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nice.
Made in 1993. It's a PG movie.
Listen to the Marilyn Manson version of This Is Halloween. It's one of my son's favorite songs.
Love it. Yeah, so I to be honest, like, wasn't a huge fan of it when it came out, but then it's grown on me over the years.
I didn't see it until I was an adult because I don't think I was allowed to see it when it came out.
This could be a fun thing to see how many movies on this list I haven't seen because I don't have a deep movie. Like I don't watch a ton of movies, so like there's probably going to be like I haven't seen that one. Like there's going to be a ton of movies on here I probably like haven't seen it.
Okay.
That's definitely one you should see.
Yeah, it's good.
I'll vouch for that
one.
No
dinosaurs?
No dinosaurs.
Okay. I'm in.
Still might scare you though. No, I'm just kidding. No. Well, I think that Matt, that leads to your 1st pick.
All right, my number 1 pick. I don't know if this is controversial or not. It's also a 'tis the season kind of pick, but my number 1 favorite kids 90s movie is Home Alone 2.
Oh, okay. I'll take it. Now
I like both of the Home Alone. Well, I know there's more than just 2 Home Alone movies, but there's really only 2 that count.
There's really only 2.
I like the first one a lot, but I think the second one is a little better in my opinion.
I would agree with you. I did have both of them on my list. I thought we'd get maybe round 2 before we had this discussion. Okay. We did this with Jim Shearer as well. He was the first. He took our draft very serious. Jim Shearer is awesome. Have you ever met Jim Shearer by chance?
No.
He was a MTV2 VJ. He hosted VH1's Top 20 Countdown for 6 years.
Well, I did a couple things at MTV and VH1, so there's a chance I met him. I recognize him if I saw him.
He's a wealth of knowledge. Great guy. So we did pizza topping draft with him. He picked fennel sausage, and then we had the discussion: are all the other sausages on the table? So because you took Home Alone 2, does that leave Home Alone still?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are separate movies.
Okay, got you. Just wanted to make sure.
Bad question, Tone. That was obvious.
Hey, I'm just making sure, man. Like, I don't know. Because like obviously I prioritize as Home Alone 2 being better. I think it's the better of the two. So I'm saying maybe I would pick number one.
Well, if you by that logic, then I think that if you were looping them all together, I think Home Alone would be a bad pick because there's 15 of them after that are garbage.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah, that next time Matt comes on, we'll do whole series of movies. Like you have to go whole franchise. No, I'm just kidding. Which might ruin by the time Matt comes back, it might ruin one of my picks that I hopefully get later. All right, Jems, you're up.
I'm gonna go with my favorite. Just barely though. Actually, they're probably pretty equal. I'm gonna take the other Home Alone, the first one.
Okay.
Fantastic.
It was on my list. It was my number 2. Like,
they're great movies. Like,
they're amazing.
I don't care if anybody says that 2 sucks, which some people say I don't get it. It's great too. They're both great.
Yeah, one doesn't get diminished because of the other. I mean, I know like I could just said 2. I probably wouldn't have picked Home Alone in like my top like 4, but like if it was sitting there in the last round, I probably would have took it. But I'm saying
I wanted to make sure I had it, and I was concerned that it was going to be gone here soon. My wife and I went and saw it in theaters in like 2015. They re-released it in for the 25th anniversary, or not 2015, it might have been 2018. I don't remember what year it was. 2016.
That's crazy. I was actually just listening to Macaulay Culkin's podcast the other day for the first.
Is that pretty good? Like the Bunny Cast or something?
It's actually not that bad, to be honest with you. It's called Bunny Ears. It's actually not that bad, to be honest with you.
Check it out.
So I will roll it back around with my favorite one of my favorite sports movies, especially as a kid.
I know what you're gonna say.
The Sandlot.
Wow,
motherfucker!
That's number 3.
Did you say that was your 3, Matt?
Yeah.
So I took your 2 and 3.
You took my 2 and 3. Yeah.
I debated taking Sandlot first, but I thought I could maybe.
Yeah, I should have. If I had actually thought about it, knowing that y'all are like baseball guys, I should have just to be an ass taken over.
I thought maybe Jems wouldn't realize that was a '90s movie because he's. But I underestimated my co-host.
Yes.
By the way, that's the one that I was talking about. If we take franchises, because they're talking about making a reboot of it.
Wasn't there Sandlot 2 that was garbage with nobody in it?
Sandlot 2 was not good, but I wouldn't say it's garbage. But like if they try to reboot it, it's definitely gonna be garbage.
That's classic at that level of classic movie.
Yeah. Kim, you're gonna mess that up every time.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, that brings us to your second round pick.
All right, I'm gonna go with Hook as my second round pick.
That was on my
Haven't seen it,
dude. Hook holds up. I saw it probably like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's still good. Like even as an adult, it's a really good movie.
It's a really really good movie.
Right.
By the way, like I on my list, I don't know if on your list, I wrote down the rating and I also wrote down the year, and I realized like 92 to 96, a lot of solid movies came out.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of solid movies came out.
Was Hook was probably PG, right? Not G.
Hook was PG and it was released in 91. Yeah. All right, man. Damn, man. Hook's a great. I can't believe you haven't seen Hook.
Yeah, I'll surprise you probably or disappoint you with a lot of things. You find out about me in the near future with stuff I have or have not seen or listened to.
I was slightly disappointed because I thought I was going to put Mrs. Doubtfire on my list, but it's PG-13.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's PG-13.
I was too. I put it on my list and I was like, I kind of
just enough cursing to make it PG-13 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of thought like Jurassic Park was going to be. I was like, okay, that's probably it's on that. But I was like, Mrs. Doubtfire's right there. Boom. No.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the 90s. It's probably the cross-dressing that makes it PG-13. Nowadays, it's a PG rating.
Yeah. Like, honestly, in the 90s, that could have been a factor.
Well, to be fair, probably the divorce aspect too.
Right.
So nowadays, that might be a G movie. So I'm having a hard time deciding between. I get the rap, so I might take both, but I'm going to take a sports movie.
Okay. There are a lot of good sports movies.
I know. There's 3 that I'm choosing between that are all could be legit picks. But I'm going to go with my favorite out of the sports movies that I have left. And now I'm going to go with 1992's PG-rated The Mighty Ducks.
Yep.
Which they're rebooting right now. Or is it out already? Or early 2021?
I think they're making like a TV show on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Mighty Ducks was my number 6.
I mean, I got it with the 6th pick, so we're on Mel Kiper's big board. We're exactly in the right spot.
We're missing Matt's 5th pick, but right? I assume Hook was your 4th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shoot. Okay. I have to do this. I'm not a huge fan. Oh shit! I might take. Nah, man, I missed another one. Dude, does that get back to me on the next one? I'm gonna assume it might. Okay.
Is it animated?
No, that's what I'm trying to choose between. I'm gonna take my favorite animated Disney classic, 1994's G-rated The Lion King.
Damn it.
That was my top Disney.
Yeah, that's my top Disney too. Great soundtrack on that too.
Oh yeah. I've seen that one recently too, and it's so good.
I still haven't seen the live action one.
I watched part of it and did not like it.
Okay, so I kind of was like, I feel like I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
So Lion King, that was definitely my next pick. I love the Lion King. One of my best friends has a bunch of like Lion King themed tattoos.
Oh, really? Sweet.
Maybe that's part of where my lion tattoo also came from, because I had like Lion King sheets. I had like Lion King everything when that came out.
that was, well, I mean, that's like right in your wheelhouse. That's what 94. It's that thing survived for like solid 2 years
when it came out. Yeah.
So you were probably you were like that's right when you like her. Yeah, I can see that. That soundtrack still is like that might be the best. That might be, if we did a draft of best movie and soundtrack that both happen to be good, that would definitely be in my top 5.
Yeah, totally. Really good soundtrack. I had it on cassette tape.
Heck yeah. I had it on cassette and CD. And I think I have it on vinyl, to be honest with you.
Ooh.
I have to go dig through my vinyls, but I think I have it on vinyl.
Look it up on vinyl.
Yeah. But Matt, we're on to your 3rd pick, the 8th overall selection.
This might be another curveball. It's a sports one.
Hopefully it's not the one I want.
Not what you would typically think of as a sports movie. Another, I believe, Disney classic, Cool Runnings.
Oh, it's on my list.
I haven't seen, so this is one that I haven't seen as an adult, so I'm not sure how it
holds up. It holds up.
It's great.
Movie as a kid.
Holds up. And
I should watch that soon. It's probably on Disney Plus or something.
It's got to be for sure. I put it as the last one on my. It was down at the bottom of my list. I didn't rank mine traditionally.
Okay.
I put it and I was like, I got to check this out. I was afraid that was going to be a PG-13 movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, maybe, because I think there is some light cursing in it, but
there is a little bit. I see pride. I see power. I see a badass mother who won't take no crap off from nobody.
Yeah.
That's
right.
is probably the extent of the.
They're like, listen, you're on the line. One more, and you're. Yeah. Cool Runnings was definitely. I was taking. I thought I was gonna get that with the last pick. To be honest with you, I was like, maybe they'll forget.
That was one of John Candy's last movies, right?
It was John Candy, legit. Yeah. John. By the way, that's 2 John Candy movies for you.
Right.
He's in Home Alone 1. So actually, Jems got that.
I drafted him though. Oh, you were talking about Matt's picks.
Yeah.
I thought you meant overall.
Candy.
So, with animated Disney movies from like that time period, Toy Story is a Disney movie too, right? I know it's Pixar. Yeah. So it was 1A and 1B. There was Lion King and Toy Story. So whatever one I didn't get, I was taking the other one. So this would be Toy Story.
That was on my list for sure. I think that was my second like animated Disney.
So as like a young kid, I remember there were like 3 movies I had on like rotation, like wake up in the morning, and one of them was going in. It was Lion King, Toy Story, and growing up semi near Chicago, I was a big basketball fan at that time. So absolutely loved Space Jam.
Man.
Damn.
And like I was a big IU. I mean, I still am. I just don't follow as much as I used to. Being a big IU basketball fan, Indiana University, finding out that Eric Gordon played Michael Jordan's son in that movie was just blew my mind.
The NBA player?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Did not realize that.
But aren't they making a reboot of that with like LeBron or something?
Yeah.
I'll watch it. I'm skeptical.
I'll be honest with you. I feel better about a LeBron James reboot of Space Jam than any reboot they're going to try to make a Sandlot.
For sure. I don't really know why. Maybe it's just like the magic of the cast of the original Sandlot. But I don't think you can capture that again.
For sure.
But I agree with you. Yeah, I feel better about a Space Jam reboot.
Yeah, it's weird. I like that because Sandlot is definitely like I don't think you could replace any person in that movie and it'd be the same movie for some. It does feel like that though, for sure.
Yeah, for
sure. Well, Matt, we're on to your 4th round pick, number 11 overall, which is typically where my Lions draft because they try to win a couple games at the end of the year.
Okay. I don't know if I want to be the first to do I guess we've done Home Alone 1 and 2, so I may as well. I'll do it. Okay. Another sports one because the sports movies in the 90s were just incredible. I'm going
greatest era.
2.
Ooh, yeah.
Which one?
Mighty Ducks 2.
Okay.
Was how I learned from that movie. I learned that Greenland is full of ice and ice is green.
and Matt, I'm about to ruin your life with this.
Okay.
I lived in Iceland.
And it's not green?
And it is not fucking green.
Pretty like black volcanic rock, right?
Yeah, so it's funny, it is green, but like people are like, oh, it doesn't literally for the rest of my life. I lived there when I was 5, so in 1988, 89.
Before the Mighty Ducks came out and ruined.
Mm-hmm. So when it came out, I remembered being in school and people were like, oh, Greenland's ice and Iceland's green. And I'm like, Greenland's ice and Iceland is ice. Like it is green, but it's like I mean like we had cement like bus stops because I literally watched a kid at 5 get lifted up by the wind and thrown 40 feet. Like it was rolling whiteouts. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Like so I'm like, it's a little misleading, but
okay. That's good to know. So I don't continue to make an ass of myself.
So
nobody will know. Random tones out there that know, but other than that, you're fine.
Yeah. There's like 10 of us kids that like literally lived in Iceland as a kid. Because that military base is gone, so like no one else is over there. Yeah. By the way, my dad chose that over fucking Hawaii.
I mean, both are places that I've never been that I would like to visit at some point, but as far as like a place to live, definitely Hawaii is.
Cooler. Awesome. It's cooler now though, because I lived in Iceland. Less people have lived in Iceland than Hawaii, and actually, like ironically enough, I graduated with a girl I went to kindergarten with in Iceland. Like we were both military brats. It was a strange small world kind of thing. So I'm gonna go back just because I feel like I got gypped by not getting my baseball movie that I wanted. Thanks, Jems. So I'm gonna take the second best baseball movie of the 90s and go with Rookie of the Year.
Oh yeah, that's the one where his arm just like would go like right.
Yeah. Yeah, Rookie of the Year, great movie. I still would have wanted Sandlot, but I'll take Rookie of the Year. I'll take it.
For him playing for the Cubs, it's still a pretty good movie.
I was just about to ask who he played for. I was thinking it was Dodgers for some reason. But
same colors ish.
Dodgers is Sandlot. Benny the Jet plays.
Yeah. You're right.
Yep. Yeah. Why? Yeah. Why haven't he played for like the Brewers or some shit? Like they always pick good teams, like historical good teams for them. But whatever. Yeah, it was a great movie. Also has the dude from the Wet Bandits in it as well. I can't think of his actual name.
Oh yeah.
That dude. What is that dude's name? Yeah, Daniel Stern. Yeah.
The skinny dude.
Yeah, he was. Yep, he was great in that movie. Shoot, so I got 2 picks left, but I get the wrap here. Oh man, actually, there's another good baseball movie I should check, but mother trucker. I know what I'm going with my last pick because I know no one's going to take it. Let's see. I'm going to go with a little off the beat. No, I can't do that either. Oh Jesus, this is so tough. I want them all. Okay, I'm gonna do I'm just gonna go baseball because I love baseball. I'm gonna take the third best baseball movie of the '90s, and I'm gonna take Angels in the Outfield with Jonathan Gordon-Levitt. Matthew McConaughey, a small role in that movie as well.
Wait, he was?
Yeah, he's the outfielder that gets picked up by the Angels and makes the crazy catch in the outfield.
Okay.
Matthew McConaughey. Tony Danza, can't go wrong with Tony Danza. I mean, so Angels in the Outfield, man.
It wasn't on my list, but I think it's just because I didn't think of that one. It probably would have been on my list had I thought about it.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm a sucker for baseball movies, but I mean, yeah.
And because of that movie, every time I see a crescent moon, a little child's voice inside of me goes, "It's God's thumbnail."
Dude, it's so weird the things you pick up from like random stuff.
I know.
Like, although that does crack me up thinking like if you were ever like just on a walk with your wife and you saw it and you made that voice exactly just now and did like her looking at you like, what the hell's wrong with you? That's what my wife would do to me. She probably knows it too, but she'd be like, what is wrong with you? So we are on number 14, the fifth round pick of Matt Hires.
All right, man. I have a lot. I'm trying to decide which way to go here because I only have two left. I'm gonna go just because of what I just said. I think my most quoted movie as a kid, the one I was probably so obnoxious quoting constantly, was Dennis the Menace.
That's a good one.
So I'm gonna take that one.
That's a good one.
I could probably like at least chunks of that movie still watch it to this day and be able to like recite it.
That's such a good movie, and that's also one of those. It's one of the weird ones because I read the comics. Like, did you read the comics? Mm-hmm. And like, I remember being like a kid. I can't remember what year that was made, but like, because I didn't put it on my list because I knew I didn't think I was gonna have to go that deep. But it's such a good movie too.
It was deep on mine, but I convinced myself because I quote it so much.
It's like there's too many good options. That's the problem. But like I remember being like, that was probably one of the first movies I was like, I don't think that's gonna be good. Why is that? Like, don't make a live action movie, and it turned out to be really good.
Yeah.
Like so, yeah, that was probably one of my first ones where I was like, please don't make that movie. But.
So I didn't quite have the extensive list that you guys had, so I've been like scrolling through looking at stuff. And
he's like the Lions GM. He's just doing research.
Yeah, kind of scrolling through. I'm coming across movies rated PG, and it blows my mind that like when I think of PG or G movie, like it should just automatically be a kids movie. But it's like some of these I wouldn't consider kids movies. Like my wife got me to watch Father of the Bride, and it's fantastic, but I wouldn't call that a kids movie, and it's PG.
That's a PG movie?
Yeah. But I'm not going to pick it because I wouldn't count that as a kids movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like October Sky is PG. Like there's just...
I've never seen that.
So, it's a pretty good movie.
We watched it like in school all the time for some reason.
That's the one with Jake Gyllenhaal in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got super excited when we were talking about baseball movies that I thought I was going to sneak one in, but it was Field of Dreams was 1989. Bullshit.
Man.
So another baseball movie I thoroughly enjoy was, you know what? I forgot I wasn't picking that one. So disregard. I'm sure you can figure out which one it is. I always liked The Little Giants. I haven't seen it in years, but The Little Giants was great.
It's on my list.
Well, you can have the baseball movie. I'm not going to pick.
What's his name? What's the dude's name? He was the Honey I Shrunk the Kid's dad.
Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis.
Yeah. Honey I Shrunk the Kids was a great movie too.
Ooh, when did those come out? I didn't even look those.
You should have me 1,000%. I didn't look at those up either. I should have.
Probably. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. 1989, the first one came out. I have IMDb open on my phone.
I was gonna say I don't think I would take Honey I Blew Up the Kids.
Right, exactly. I would take Shrunk, but not.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I'm gonna guess Jems has never seen either one of them.
I've seen Honey I Shrunk the Kids.
Okay.
I've probably seen the other one too. They used to run them on Disney Channel and stuff.
Probably.
So my last pick is another sports movie, but because being a kid that loved sports growing up, that was mainly what I watched. I remember owning this on VHS and then a couple other varieties of it, but the first one was the best one. The basketball dog, Air Bud.
I've never seen any of the Air Bud movies.
Yeah, I've seen only Air Bud. That's the only one I've seen is the first one.
There's like where he plays football and soccer. There's a ton of them.
Air Bud came out in 96?
7, I think this says.
97?
So maybe, I don't know. I was trying to think like why I wouldn't have watched it. Maybe I thought I would have been like 11 and maybe I was starting to feel like, oh, I'm too old.
Right?
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because that definitely was like, I know I'm a little bit older, so I was definitely like, a dog, really? Come on.
The dog could ball. What can I say?
What are we doing here? Like, but by the way, I also love Space Jams where there's monsters, so that's kind of stupid. So, yeah. Go figure. So I like to recap after we all pick all of our things. So like, Jems has now finished his list. He has Home Alone, The Sandlot, Toy Story, Space Jams, Little Giants, and Air Bud, which is also to be honest, I would watch a movie marathon of all 6 of them.
Yeah, I would too. That's a good list.
Legit. So Matt, you're down to your last pick.
And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, 6 options.
And we can talk about all of the near misses afterwards. Okay. That's what we did.
I'm going Free Willy. I'm doing it. Free Willy.
You just made my
classic Michael Jackson song from the soundtrack. Still an awesome song.
Yeah.
It has like 12 key changes.
yeah, for sure. You actually just made my like last pick slightly easier. That was one. That's a great movie though. That's also one though. I don't know if I would go past Free Willy 1 though.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've seen any of the other ones, but I don't really.
Definitely shouldn't. So I am down to. Shoot, I'm down to like 3 solid options. I definitely have like 7 on my thing that could all feasibly be picked, but I'm down to 3. There's one that I really want to take, but it's really down to like I think 2. Both of them are 1992 movies. They're both PG. I'm gonna go with, and this might be totally off the wall, but since you are, I'm literally taking it for 2 reasons. 1, there's Christian Bale is in it. 2, it's a musical movie. Since we have a musical guest, I'm taking 1992's Newsies.
I've never seen Newsies. I feel like
it's fucking good.
That's one I really should put on my list.
Definitely good. Definitely. The Christian Bale dancing and singing, definitely one.
Yeah.
I want to check that out.
Yeah.
Damn. I knew I could. I kind of figured I could get that as my last pick, but so yeah, that's a great one. So you have what?
I've seen a surprisingly large number of these movies.
Oh, yeah. So let me recap again because I think I forgot to do it after Matt's. Matt has Home Alone 2, Hook, Cool Runnings, Mighty Ducks, Dennis the Menace, and Free Willy, which I think is a solid. I would also watch that with Marathon.
Mighty Ducks 2.
Mighty Ducks 2.
Oh, Mighty Ducks 2. That's right. I forgot to add the 2.
I have 2 sequels in mine.
Yeah, you do have 2 sequels in yours. That is correct. And you started off with a sequel, too.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Hires, big sequels guy.
Big sequels guy. And then I have The Nightmare Before Christmas, The Mighty Ducks original, The Lion King, Rookie of the Year, Angels in the Outfield, and Newsies.
Nice.
So I think I have the only McConaughey and Christian Bale movies, though, so I'll take it. But so Matt, what did you have on your near misses?
So let's see what I had. Homeward Bound.
Definitely, it was on my list. Yeah.
One that I think that it came out in the 90s. I never saw till I was an adult, but I think that's the only reason I didn't choose it because I think it may have been it was probably the best animated movie to come out in the 90s, The Iron Giant.
Oh, I didn't put it on my list, but I almost did. I was like,
I think seeing it as an adult, like I think I cried. Like it's an incredible movie.
Also, underrated Vin Diesel movie too.
Ooh, what's he the Iron Giant?
Yeah. Huh. Indies on.
So I had that Homeward Bound, White Thing.
Yeah.
With what's his name?
What's it called? White Fin?
White Fang. About the wolf or whatever.
Ethan Hawke?
Ethan Hawke, yeah.
Yes. I was trying to think of who that dude was.
Jumanji.
I have that on my list, yeah. I thought at one point, I was like, I might just go all Robin Williams movies.
Ooh.
I was going to go all Mary-Kate and Ashley movies because I thought you were funny.
My last one was a kind of a curveball, but just one that I really loved as a kid was The Rescuers Down Under.
Oh, yeah, that's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Rescuers Down Under.
So I had a couple other ones that you didn't list. I'll just knock them out. The Indian in the Cupboard. Great. Yeah, that's a great movie. It wasn't quite good enough to make a top. I was like, if we go deep and my picks get taken, Jems luckily didn't take like the ones that I thought he would take. Aladdin. Great movie.
Yeah.
I only wanted one Disney movie though. I'm not a big Disney guy, but Aladdin's a legit one. Heavyweights.
Robin Williams one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's true.
All right, what was the one you just said? I missed it.
Heavyweights.
I've actually, that's one I haven't seen.
It's good. It's worth a watch.
Ben Stiller's in that one, right?
Yeah, Ben Stiller's in that. So is half the cast of Mighty Ducks, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then my last two, it was between Newsies and these two. First was Blank Check.
That's one I don't think would hold up watching it now, but I love that.
I don't think so either, because I think the Blank Check was for $1 million.
Yeah.
I don't think you could feasibly get what that kid got for $1 million.
I don't think you could even get his house, because didn't he buy like a castle or something?
Yeah, and then he had like a slide, so yeah.
Maybe in the 90s you could buy a castle for $1 million.
And then my last one was Three Ninjas. I love it.
That was one I thought about. Yeah, I thought about putting on mine too.
It's so hard because there's so many. That's
Rocky loves family. Rocky loves family.
Exactly.
Or the names Rocky, Tum Tum,
and what was the third one?
Colt, right?
Yeah, Colt. Yeah. I don't know how I forgot that one. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, Matt Hires might be. I'll go out on a limb. We've let, I think, everybody choose. Well, we picked pizza ingredients.
Okay.
Then we let Jason kind of pick comedians, sort of. And then wrestling, we kind of like. You were the first one that like really like picked. I think this is going to be the new format. We're definitely going to like let the guests, I think, full blown pick something they have full passion on.
I'm glad we did this one. I think the two options I sent you originally were the 90s movies and then like potato chips.
Yeah.
Which I still think would be a good one, but I have some strong feelings about some chips. But
I think we would have been
better if
Matt, you and I may have been a smidge like Tone might have had the upper hand on that one.
Yeah, for sure. But that was awesome. And honestly, the off the wall, like, I wouldn't have even thought of that as category. I don't know how you like pulled that from your brain, but like,
I honestly don't either.
definitely was like the most solid choice I've ever seen. So that's gonna be a super fun one. That was a great draft, and I'm gonna go probably watch a zillion movies in the next like couple of days.
Get on like a 90.
Well, Matt, we appreciate you coming on. I mean, honestly, I could have probably talked to you for another 3 hours. That's just how our podcast goes. I say this to almost everybody. I think I've said this to everybody. Open invite if you ever want to come back on. If you ever have anything to promote, let us know.
Okay.
Definitely want to push that out, and we always love talking to people. So, Jems, anything you want to finish with?
No, we appreciate you coming on. It's awesome. I'm a fan now after Tone introduced me. He's like, check him out. I said, okay.
It's the best part. It's the best part of this podcast. We both have like a lot of similarities, but we have some differences. So he's introduced me to some stuff. I've introduced him to some stuff, and it's been an awesome back and forth. So get anywhere close, we'll come see you. And I guess everyone, thank you for listening. And I did almost forget. I want everybody to be able to find you. So where can everybody find you?
I mean, on social media, it's just Matt Hires on everything. I'm on Spotify. My last name is spelled Hires, if anyone needed help with that. But yeah, all the streaming services, all the social medias.
Definitely go find Matt. He's a great follow and also makes incredible music. So thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you guys next time.